Hello users, and welcome to another episodic installation of Above It All. This is a series in which I talk about politics and the Democratic primary. So, as of right now, I'm recording this video. I'm starting it at 11:17 p.m. on March 10th. This is what New York Times is telling me right now. I'm just, I'm going to point this on and just leave this open throughout the majority of this video. Biden won Michigan. That was a big test for the Sanders campaign, and it's a test we failed. So basically what I want to do here is I just want to illustrate where we go from here, and how I see the future of this whole thing going on. First things first, the coronavirus, I think, is going to play a more substantial role over the next 5 days, leading up to the next debate. Of course, the debate was, the rules have been changed, and it's now apparently not going to have an audience whatsoever, which I find kind of incredible. So who knows how that's going to go? Bernie and Joe are relatively close in delegates. A majority of voters have yet to have a chance to vote. We haven't had a debate. I'm just throwing random facts out here. We haven't had a debate yet that hasn't been a shouting match between 5,000 people. My general thesis here, the way I see things, is the debate schedule, having all the candidates go at each other. The way I see it, it's always been a Bernie versus Biden race. And the whole reason of having the Pete Buttigieg's, the Amy Klobuchars, the Elizabeth Warrens, all those people were given an opportunity to run to see if they would replace Joe. That's what they were all running for. None of them really tried to run after Sanders. That's why you saw Elizabeth Warren go from Sanders light to just Buttigieg light. She wasn't ever competing for Sanders voters, and they all knew that from the get-go. They were all competing to see who would be the Joe Biden or who would be the Hillary Clinton of this race. It was always Sanders versus the world. And the world for the longest time was with Biden. Then there was that 3 weeks or so where Buttigieg was performing kind of well and Klobuchar was performing kind of well and Bloomberg entered the race. They all knew that Joe Biden was unstable. But it turned out with South Carolina, Pete having 2% black support, that was like a big make or break here. Joe Biden had the connections. Joe Biden had the name recognition. So he had to be the one that they rallied behind. You have to look at these moves. Everyone coalescing behind Biden. Beto coming out of the gone zone and coming out for Biden. And Elizabeth Warren staying in through Super Tuesday. It's perfectly written in a way that completely disregards the entire primary was purposefully not a 1v1, because if you divide, because the real thing was when there were 10 candidates on stage, it was always Bernie versus everyone else. Bernie's speaking time was always Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren were always on the same team. Amy Klobuchar and Julian Castro were always on the same team. They were only going after each other. Sure, they were going after Sanders too, because that's the nature of the game. But as far as competition goes, they were only going after each other. But what that did is it created a shouting match where Bernie's message was basically snuffed out. And isn't it weird that we had 4 debates in February and we haven't had one in March yet? This is my thing here. I think the establishment had this plan from the get-go. I think Obama, behind the scenes, knew what was going. Like he knew before Super Tuesday, we have to rally around whoever's got the most likelihood of being able to stop Sanders. And what they mean by that is we have to reassess we have to reassess. I'm speaking as Obama here. We have to repossess our position. And like I'm not. So the whole thing is they want to prevent poor people from having health care. But here's the thing. They also want to prevent the Green New Deal from happening, which at this point in time, if we don't get our act together in the next presidential term, we're looking at a very diabolical scenario. But they don't care because they're rich. They've got the money. It doesn't matter if Trump is elected. It doesn't matter if Biden's elected for them. It doesn't matter. All that matters is they get the money. And that's what's important here. It was always Sanders versus the world. And it's just it's despicable. Of course, it's despicable. It's awful. But where we go from here, this is going to be very long-winded, but where we go from here, Bernie's in an interesting spot. He's got a kind of a damned if you do and a damned if you don't thing going on. If he hammers at Joe Biden, and the biggest issue right now is clearly he is in cognitive decline, if he hammers Joe Biden's electability, there were some stats I saw that about 70%, and you can fact check me, I'm not going to look this up on here because I should have prepared it, but I'm a bad YouTuber. About 70% of people that voted within the last 3 days made up their mind in the last 3 days. And 30% of people voted for the person that they agreed the most with. What that means is that for a majority, a supermajority of voters, the competition was about who can beat Donald Trump. The competition is not about who will bring us Medicare for all. And we can disagree with that, and it's awful and it's terrible, but that's just the way the race is right now. Bernie has got basically 1 week left. At this point, if he loses Washington, I'm just going to look back at the New York Times. I don't know what's going on in Idaho. If he loses Washington, Washington right now is his stronghold for him being able to stay in this race. But the next debate is crucial. Again, more than half of people haven't voted yet. If he can crack that wall of support and show that Biden is in cognitive decline. Keep in mind, he's had so many gaffes over fucking 12 a day for the past week. Now that he's the front runner, he's been a gaffe machine. We can only re-elect Donald Trump. Blah blah blah. We hold these truths to be the thing. Give it another week, 5 days until the next debate. See what Bernie says. See how it plays. Again, it's in a damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because if he doesn't, if he errs on the side of caution and thinks, well, we do need to get Trump out of office, and of course that is important, and he does decide to go soft on Joe Biden, that's rolling the dice. But I see where he's coming from. The movement that Bernie has behind him it's going to be what he's going to be known for, whether he actually gets into the White House or not, he's not going away. And people like me and you, presumably, they're watching this video, we're not going away. There may be people that are demoralized and won't vote in a general election if it's Biden versus Donald Trump. But I think that the main amount of people, I think that you're going to see more and more people run for Congress, like AOC, for example. That's going to keep happening. Interest in local politics is going to be a lot more important going forward. That it's on the rise spectacularly, progressive local politics. But the problem is we don't have this time for climate change. That's the problem. If we had maybe another 10 years, then it would be less scary. But we're not looking at that situation. The coronavirus is probably going to impact a lot of people. And that could play into Biden's hands, because they had to cancel rallies. Both Sanders and Biden had to cancel a lot of rallies. So it could play into Biden's hands, not having to do many public appearances. But if Bernie says that that Biden's incompetent, maybe not just stress on cognitive decline, maybe hint around it. And if he points out that Biden said he would veto Medicare for all, and if he says that during these moments we need to have a national healthcare system because, your neighbor's health is important, because if your neighbor gets a contagious virus, they can pass it to you. And if we had a national healthcare system, we would not be in that situation. It can dramatically alter the race. There's a lot that can happen. The race is not over by any means. However, clearly at this point, we need to be in the back of our minds preparing for each major possible event. Again, the coronavirus could maybe be an overall wash on the election. I don't think it will, but it could. I don't think it will, though. I think the fact that they're canceling campaign rallies, I think the fact that people are speculating if Donald Trump himself will get the coronavirus from shaking hands with that guy at CPAC. 13, I think, states, maybe more, are now in a state of emergency. There's a lot that can happen here that can influence the election. And again, Bernie's in this awful situation where if he bows out gracefully, and I don't mean dropping out of the race, but I mean not going negative on Biden's cognitive abilities, and he sticks just to the issues. There's two strategies here. You can either, one, give Joe Biden enough rope to hang himself and hope he does it quickly, or two, put the pillow over his mouth and let him go peacefully into the quiet night. And I don't know which one. One has extreme recoil effect of hurting the movement, but also strengthening the resolve of the movement. And the other one, it's less of a likely to hurt the movement in the power dynamic sense, but I think it's a lot more of just a dice roll. It's a Hail Mary. Either way, I want Bernie to stay in the contest till the last state is voted. That's what I would like. And we didn't get any emails tonight about anything hinting. They actually asked for more fundraising tonight, so I don't think they're dropping out. I know a lot of people are floating that, and I don't think that they should. No, I think we should stay in the race as long as we have a donor base. But also, the Bernie campaign, regardless of whether or not it wins, needs to be able to transition into something that's not going to dissipate. Either join forces with DSA or other organizations, create another organization, maybe Our Revolution or something, maybe create an amalgamation or a network or a television station or a channel of some kind. There's a lot of people, and we have this big coalition joining up with the Bernie campaign, the worst possible scenario is Bernie loses, everyone's demoralized, and everyone just breaks off into individual factions and has no unifying. We don't need to unify with the centrists. We need to unify anyone who is even skeptical of capitalism. In my opinion, we need to unify with these people. And I think that's the number one concern. Because these problems aren't going away. If Biden beats Trump, which I find unlikely, if Biden's the nominee, I find it unlikely that he beats Trump. But if Biden beats Trump, we can work with that. It's not the end of the world. It'll be rough. A lot of people will die, but it's not the end of the world. If Trump's reelected, it's also not the end of the world, but it's also a really bad world that I'm not sure we can really work with outside, or rather inside of electoral politics. I think you'll need, if Trump wins re-election, you need a general strike until he resigns or something. Like, you can't, at that point, the game has to be completely shifted. But yeah, this is not a good night for Sanders. I'm disappointed. In this time last week, I saw Bernie start going after Joe Biden, but then he kind of let up a bit, and I think that's a mistake. I think it cost him Michigan. Ohio's next week. Ohio's another big test. He needs to go after electability if he wants to win. And that's the issue. I don't know if at this point if Bernie wants to win or not. Of course I still adore him. But I don't know how much he's willing to go, how far he's willing to go to win. I think it's totally still winnable. If you look again, more than half of the states haven't voted yet. It's totally winnable. But it's going to be horrifying. I don't know. Let me know what you think. This is my grand thesis. Either way, I think demoralization is the worst possible outcome. That's exactly what they want. I think whether or not Bernie continues and wins or loses or whatever, I think people need to plug in more with their town and their community. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to just get in there a little bit more, because at the end of the day, the whole movement is about helping people. And if you can help any amount of people, regardless of if it's on the big scale or if it's on the small scale, you're doing good. And that's kind of the thing. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you see any issues, I saw North Dakota had only like 14 polling places in the whole state, which is like, it's a relatively big state. So imagine having to like drive out 45 minutes or whatever to go vote. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? But yeah, I saw lots of bullshit. But let me know if you see any bullshit. And we'll reconvene tomorrow. But it's not over. Nothing is ever over. Things still have a lot of opportunity to change. The coronavirus, the economic potential disaster that's incoming, how those affect Medicare for all and class politics of Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden's cognitive decline. There's so many fucking things that are going on right now. There's a big convergence. And it's going to be interesting. But the last thing you want to do is to just give up now. Because, again, we could be looking at in a week from now, after the debate, we could be looking at a completely new situation. Like, just a week and a half ago, we were still talking about Amy Klobuchar. You know what I mean? Like, think this has been the fastest moving week and a half or so that I've ever seen. 2 weeks ago, we were still talking about Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar, and now they're gone. And this is going to be the first debate with a two-person race, and it's a huge opportunity. Coronavirus again, economic collapse again. There's so much happening. this is just getting started. This will be a year that you tell your grandkids, let me tell you. Let me tell you to tell your grandkids about watching my videos. Once again, I am asking you to just not lose hope. And also, once again, I am asking you to give me money on Patreon. Hit me up. I've only got 16 patrons. Now, I know for a fact that this video is going to get more than 16 views. So hit me up, $1. So instead of donating all your money to the Bernie campaign, start splitting, say $1 to me so I can keep entertaining you and giving you this extremely intelligent thesis. Synthesis, even, at this point. And then also give $9 to Bernie Sanders. Anyway, I'm just going to give this one last refresh. Washington's close, man. Idaho is just... Let me look at Idaho. Idaho, man. Fuck. Bernie won Idaho last time? What the fuck? What? What is this? Clark County? I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about the dynamics here. I'm very uneducated on individual districts. You'd think this would be listed in... Oh, Clark. Okay. That's... Like, I guess only fucking 16 people voted in Clark County. I don't know. Anyway, I'll have more of an analysis tomorrow for sure. But again, let me know what you think, and I'll see you again soon. Also, give me money.